Thank you guys for coming. And for, I don't know, I would be outside, but go afterwards. That's what I said. I'm going to take a walk afterwards. Senator Dinah Sykes, I think I know everyone in here. It has been a crazy month. That is, it was actually, I had an interview for one of the television stations, and I aired it this morning, and they're like, so we're hearing that everyone is saying like like it's a ticking time bomb and to be, I'm like, yeah, that's actually pretty accurate, just because it's condensed. The budget is supposed to be passed out this week, to be debated on the floor before, because Friday, next Thursday, Friday, the 20th, we're off on the 20th. The 19th is turnaround. So that's the date where everything should have passed out of the Senate and then go to the House, or pass the House and go to the Senate. There are exceptions to that, but that's kind of the general rule. And so it has been fast and furious, dealing with like budget hearings and all of this stuff. But honestly, we haven't done that much work on the floor. I mean, we passed floor bills this week that were pretty benign, not a lot of opposition or whatever. We did another confirmation hearing for a member of the KCC, but really dealing with the things that Republicans said we were going to deal with, which was property taxes, cost of living. Those are not the things that have been addressed. One of the biggest bills that you probably heard of was with the immigration. Sorry, it's the door isn't unlocked, so it'll be fine.
Oh,
Yeah, it's fine. Making sure that undocumented people are not able to receive any of TANF or any of those things. That is currently, they're not allowed to do that. But the piece of that bill, which I'm actually thankful that the House was able to amend, we tried on the Senate, was for over 20 years. And it was actually bipartisan legislation that was passed by now Representative Derek Schmidt, and then our past Senate President Susan Wagle. So very conservative individuals, but they knew that kids who were here of no fault of their own, they've been in our Kansas high schools, they're making good grades, they're on a path to citizenship, that they would be allowed to get in-state tuition because they're not allowed any scholarships, any other grants. And most of those students are going to our community colleges because they're able to work. So being able to pay in-state tuition was a path forward. And I think it's like 327 students is currently what are taking advantage of this. And over the past, 20 years, it's really, we've seen that these are our entrepreneurs. They're staying in Kansas. They've become citizens, and they're active members of society. And so that was one of the pieces that we tried to amend on the Senate side that didn't get in. It was an 18-19 vote, so it was really a close margin, but they were able to pull that piece out on the House. So I think that was a good piece that got in there. So again, it is just fast and furious education. We've had a lot of bills that have come through for hearings. I know we have talked about the cell phone ban that had bipartisan support. 28 senators on the Senate side signed onto this bill, and we can't get it out of committee because the chair is playing political games with it. And so it's actually kind of interesting because the majority leader and the chair of the committee are kind of at odds. And so he said, I'm not going to work bills if you don't get my bill out. And so they did work that bill on the House side. So we may see that cell phone bill come over from the House. Honestly, who knows? And that may be a path forward on that one. But I see I feel like I have all my pharmacists in here. Big bill, it's Senate Bill 360, right? It's a PBM reform bill, so pharmaceutical benefit managers. So it's really a transparency piece. And I don't know if you all are getting things kind of on the news. People are saying this is a pill tax. It's not a pill tax. You've seen in other states where they have implemented this that the price to consumers and what insurances are paying are going down drastically and saving everyone money on these. And it's really a transparency issue so that kind of we look under the hood of what's going, because there's spread pricing. And I have two people in here that if you want to know the weeds of this, they can really get into it. But I had worked with them over the last couple of years trying to get something introduced. And because we know how political things can be sometimes in Topeka, handed that off to a Republican to kind of champion that. And so it is still currently in committee, but it's out. Okay, it got out of committee, so we may see it on the floor. Again, the Senate has been more cooperative in kind of voting for these things, but then they sometimes get stuck on the House side, hopefully, because some dynamics that have changed there, because I am running against the speaker for insurance commissioner. He has actually been a little bit more willing to have some of these conversations, but I don't know about this one. This is kind of a heavy lift, but it is a good thing. So if you do have questions, if you see things on social media, because insurance companies are really trying to stop this. And I actually had a colleague we were talking on it when he was trying to decide where he was. He said, there's a lot of people and a lot of money that comes with how you vote on this. And I said, I've never decided how I'm going to vote on something, whether or not someone's going to spend money against me in an election. And I said, it's happened before and I'm still standing. So hopefully that was a good piece of advice to that person, because talking about really what this could do for Kansans is important. So, because it's just been crazy and I'm kind of in my silo, ask questions and I will answer or try to answer.
So Lenexa passed these new homes. Is this going to be in this district, your district?
So the question was, Lenexa City Council passed for some Habitat for Humanity homes. It is not in my district because of redistricting. I don't go west of K7, and it's on the other side of K7. There is a project very similar in Olathe that has been good, and I have talked to the city. I've been kept up to date. I think it is a good, exciting thing for Lenexa. And one of the number one things that I hear about is affordable housing, and this is a piece of that puzzle. Individuals, if they're going to live there, they have to take part and building it and go through financial literacy and a lot of those things. So I do think it is a good thing. I was not able to watch, but I did see that there was a full house for that.
We were there.
Yeah.
It did pass.
It did pass.
The city council or just the planning commission?
It was a planning commission. So yeah.
Talking about housing, yeah, the 17th is the.
The 17th.
Are they doing something about the gambling here in Kansas? Are they thinking of taking it away, or?
So there has been several conversations. I think there are some people who do. I don't think they will take away, but there's always. So when we passed sports betting and some of that, there was concern of where the money goes. A lot of it goes to people who have gambling addictions and making sure that they have counseling and money goes to that. The state portion also is relatively small compared to some states. So there has been some talk, like in the interim over the summer, of trying to revisit that. I think the person who has had those conversations would like to completely do away with gambling. And I don't think it's going anywhere this session. I haven't heard that it is.
I guess I would have thought Missouri would have learned the lesson from Kansas with sports betting. So
Yeah.
for them to be shocked that they just got a tiny portion of it again, I was like, where haven't we seen this game before?
Yeah.
So it just goes, so part of the money goes to people that have the gambling addiction.
Part of it does. Part of it does go to our state general fund, and then part of that money actually went to a fund that we've used for like competitive sports. So the Chiefs, part of it did go into that fund as well.
So they're gonna readdress it or
I don't.
just leave it.
I think they may leave it right now. There's always talk about it, but it is not one of the leading issues of the session right now that I've heard. Again, as I've said before, nothing is ever dead until sine die, but I have not heard rumblings of that one this session, just kind of prior to session.
Have data centers gotten any attention?
There has not, we passed those a couple of bills last year, but I don't think there's been anything this
Every
year.
time I turn around, I read something about impact on the infrastructure. And you know, when a brown light comes, they're not shutting the data centers down.
Yeah. I do. So I have a friend who's in Oklahoma, and he had reached out. He works with some wind and solar, and they do data centers, and they do it, but it's all contained. And they're not going on our electrical grid or using our water. And he had reached out to me just asking like what had been passed, and I shared the legislation that had been passed, and then gave him some names of some contract lobbyists, just for the person that he represents. But there's not been a lot since we passed that bill last session.
You mean solar power can be strong enough to run a data center?
Now, there's something like 30 data centers in the Kansas City metro area.
Yeah.
And the draw on electricity is just enormous.
So this is something that I think they passed in Texas, in Oklahoma. They've been having some conversations, but I think they have done it in Texas. But it's a company, and it is all self-contained. They take care of everything, and they were looking at maybe having Kansas a viable option. But they just wanted to kind of figure out
Company.
under that company, but they wanted to know kind of the lay of the land and was there anything stopping? So there's not been a lot of talk so far this session.
Yeah, and at least one of the nuclear power plant proposals here for the mini plants here has been for data center use.
Yeah.
It's not just generation, it's distribution.
Right.
That's pretty
Oh,
much.
yeah.
Now, which is why they're talking about putting the mini plant right next to the data center, or vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
One in Parsons.
I don't remember.
I don't
off the top
I
of
think
my head.
the one in Parsons is tied to a data center. I think it's the second proposal that's.
I
tied
think
to
it
a
is
data
too.
Oh,
center.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's the one in Parsons.
What else?
Could be opening a can of worms. What about immigration? I know that they were up in Manhattan last week.
Yeah, so the Senate president had introduced a bill, and I think it got read in probably on Thursday or Friday, and it would force your local police and sheriff's departments to work with ICE. It has not. I don't know if it has a hearing scheduled, but he's pushing that. I did hear, and it's not confirmed, that there was some ICE activity in Olathe yesterday, but there are very few of our counties or cities that have kind of made that partnership with ICE. There are some, but it is something that we're watching. And again, this bill that the Senate president introduced, watching that closely to see what happens with that.
I happened to be at a gathering where the sheriff was yesterday, and I raised this question, where are you getting caught in the middle and because I was understanding that ICE will call the police in without their knowing ICE is in the region. When something happens, then they can justify it that the activity has to do with, the problem is a normal problem that might be there without ice, even though probably they created it, but anyway. And what he was concerned about a lot was, where he said they were really trying to get information from ICE ahead of time, particularly during the summer sports, because there'll be a lot of extra safety, general things going on then with all the people that are here that don't know which way is up in this area. And I was just thinking, wow, they can get caught in the sheriffs and the police in all our cities can get so caught in the middle of this with somebody just doing something stupid that wasn't really part of the ICE plan either.
Right. And I do, so because I serve on the KC 2026 board, which is for the World Cup, we our local municipalities, sheriff's departments, KCK, all of those are in really coordination, talking to each other, making sure that there is a plan. There is concern because we want to make sure that people are able to attend and our communities are safe. We do have federal dollars, which will help fund that. But Lenexa, because I've pitched Lenexa, where it's a group of, I think it's 10 businesses in Lenexa, really wanting to spotlight who Lenexa is. And we will have some watch parties here. So I know that even our Lenexa Police Department are paying attention, making sure that everything is safe. And I have not talked to our new chief of police, but I know our previous one, like they were not working with ICE, and it was kind of that silo. So, and I have not had a conversation with our new.
And she was deputy before.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So I would assume that is going to continue, but since I haven't had those conversations.
So that little phrase, where's your papers? Where are those papers? I mean, what papers do we need to have? I mean, I think about it because I'm brown, okay? You know,
You look great to me.
but, thank you.
That's right.
But, you know, I mean, not that I really think about it, but it's in the back of my head, you know, I mean, my wife is a double nickels. She's a white woman.
Mm-hmm.
I have a granddaughter that's a black girl. So there's 3 races in the car. You know what I mean? And so the thing about being pulled over, I mean, I don't really do anything to get pulled over. I tend to do the speed limit.
Shouldn't speed.
My own business, you know, I mean, well, I might do 10 miles over once in a while, but you know, I mean, I do the speed limit. I don't break any laws. I don't drink. So, you know, but then you see pull one up alongside you, and I'm usually looking forward, and I'll look over just to see who's around me, you know, just to be aware of my surroundings. And there's a cop looking right at me as I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, hey, and I mind out, go back, and I think, I'm gonna get pulled over, you know. But I mean,
Yes.
it's like kind of like the old Casablanca movie.
Yeah.
You know?
So on my newsletter, I do have a little excerpt in there that talks about your rights and some things. So if it's kind of at the bottom, and I know my newsletters are really long, so I'm sorry.
Oral this time.
Whoa. Put a joke in the middle of it, so then when we go, oh, okay, good.
I will give that feedback.
Yeah.
I have heard that from others. One of my friends, she has a niece who is adopted and a daughter who is adopted, and they now carry their passports with them, which I think is terrible that they feel that's what they do. Her daughter just had gotten her driver's license, and like they were letting her drive, you know, normal places that teenagers get to drive. And they have kind of tightened that, and she has fewer places because they're kind of concerned for her. But they carry passports with them wherever they are, which is terrible that that's where we are. But I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, when I was born in the 50s, I mean, I kind of was on the butt end of the, you know, segregation then, and it was kind of, I was called all kinds of names. And in here, within the last few years, I've been finding out my roots are from America. You know, I mean, it was from here, you know, I mean, so I'm thinking it's kind of crazy.
And he pulled up my newsletter. I love this.
I've got two versions of Know Your Rights cards, which are different than the one ACLU thing I attended online. So they're the suggestions for how you word your concerns if you're asked
That's
to
on
do
her
something
page.
vary.
That's on her email
Okay.
newsletter.
Anybody want
Do you
to
get
look
it?
at 'em?
Yes, I get it.
You don't read it all, it's fine.
That's why I said put a cartoon or something in the middle of it, so that we, okay, I can keep going.
Yeah, and she has little cards. We could probably
But
try.
you have I forget whose website has an access to somebody's cards, and
Yeah.
I didn't drill down, but
Probably.
I go to the Four Corners and some other meetings or something, so I managed to pick these up, but something boots on the ground or something.
Probably boots on the
One
ground of
is
it.
ILRC, I don't know what that is,
Yeah, ILRC
No,
is
and one's a
the
No
one that
Kings
she's
thing.
to.
Yeah.
so.
Mine is that.
But it's interesting that
ILRC.
they choose slightly different wordings on different rights, and I think you have to figure out what fits who you are, and so you find a comfortable way of saying something. I just decided I'd start carrying it. in case
No, I think
somebody
that's
needed to look at it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doubly privileged, right, like Noel, but, I figure if they go after me, they deserve all the feedback they get from
Yeah.
everybody.
And that's the scary. Like I have always said, we are better biodiversity, and that is what we. So it is disheartening what is going, and I continue to hold for hope. And I see the people who are standing up and protesting, and I don't know. There has to be something that changes, and I think. Elections, like I think we will see a huge change in the election, and people are really frustrated. Even people who had supported Donald Trump as president are done. So,
I've got a few of the people that I know that are just so, he's doing such a great.
and there are those, but I do hear more and more people who are frustrated and they're not liking what is happening, and so. I think it was Governor Gretchen Whitmer posted a comment. She was like, "We can't get tired. We can't get exhausted. Like we have to continue going." And I think there's all of this noise around us that can be debilitating, or all of these things, and we have to continue to have some sort of light and hope, and I don't know, keep trying to make sure our democracy is saved.
I did read an article on Substack, it's a new program that there was a lady from, I believe she's from Utah, and she's got nothing but women that are
I
sponsoring.
remember that.
Oh, are you? And
Morning
she
Women for
really
Government.
is doing
okay.
some
Yeah,
fantastic
they are.
things.
Oh,
I was
Yeah.
shocked, and I was proud to see something like that, you know. I mean, don't take me wrong, women are strong individuals, and and I'm glad that there's women that will step up and to do that kind of thing, to, you know, voice what they have to say, because we're all, what we might be thinking, they're gonna say it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because they're not just protecting, they got family that they're protecting too, you know, so, and I just read this like Wednesday or Thursday, and they said, I think it was like 52, she said, from different areas, and she mentioned Kansas in the statement, and I'm like, wow, good, you know, so I don't know if the governor's part of it, or.
I don't know if the governor is, and I also know the wine women is like the new phrase for women who are outspoken. I think it's supposed to be derogatory, but I was like, I kind of love this. Like, there's like a whole like webinar on this, which I wasn't able to do because I was on the floor. But yeah, I don't know. I think people are frustrated, and I think people are doing what they can to be in opposition in the right manners. So.
I forget what was the term for it in the 2016 anti-Brownback wave.
I can't remember what it was.
Guess it shows you how quick those terms go out of fashion.
Have you all talked about the insurance commissioner? I know you don't know anything about it, but what's happening or what would happen, and whether there are other people talking about the position that the potential insurance commissioner might be vacating?
Oh,
So our current insurance commissioner is running for governor on the Republican side. I served with her in the Senate. I am very good friends with Vicki. And so that leaves a vacancy, which I am running for. And so is the Speaker of the House, Dan Hawkins. Dan is an insurance agent, so there is concern about the fox guarding the hen house. If you all don't have anything going on February 26th, I'm having my official launch with Governor Kathleen Sebelius, who is a former Democratic. She is our last Democrat who has served as insurance commissioner. There's only been 2 in the state. And Sandy Prager, who is a Republican who followed Kathleen. They are co-chairing my campaign, and we will be at Thompson Barn at 5:30 on Thursday, February 26th. So would love to have you there. There are lots of, as I was talking about PBM reform, there's several other bills, 340B, a lot of these issues that actually benefit Kansans and things that we could do to make sure our rural hospitals are not closing. And a lot of it is transparency. As I've been talking to health professionals, our surrounding states have a better, what is the prior authorization? There's also a bill that we're trying to do some reforms with prior auth. But what are the denial rates? How long is it taking for insurance companies to reimburse? So a lot of these things are important to that. I have a friend who is an eye doctor, and he has 90 days to file his claims, but they have 18 months in order to pay him. So dealing with some of these issues, which would benefit Kansans, make sure, even if it's just trying to open the lid to see what are some of the things and how it is different from other states. So would love your support. If you are interested in donating, helping, I'm still putting my team together, and it's going to be a crazy 10 months. Never run a statewide campaign, but very excited about it. And I do have some great support.
So how does that work then? So.
With my Senate seat.
Yeah, so someone, if you were elected, they would appoint.
So because it would be after the election, so there would not be another general election until 28. Precinct people, so the Democratic precinct leaders in Senate 21 would pick who would fill my spot. And I have had conversations. I think I would find someone who and support someone who would be very similar in my values and my approach to things. And I've had some conversations. So I have a couple of people in mind. So I get this a lot because I've had people say, "Why are you abandoning me?" I'm not abandoning you. I'm trying to serve you in a new manner.
So question on the insurance. Will you be taking care of like Cancade and all that?
So you're the regulator of insurance and all of those. So it's your health insurance, casualty, home, life, regulator of all of that.
So-
And
My question is, I don't know who to direct it to, but it's an insurance question. We have our granddaughter, and her father is supposed to keep insurance on her. He's kind of gone majority of the time. We haven't seen him. We only text him and he doesn't really reply. Well, her insurance dropped. So now at the point we're at medical neglect.
mm-hmm.
So we have texted him. My wife has seen him and dropped off a form for him to sign, and so we can get insurance on. Nothing. So how do we get insurance when he's got custody of her and yet he's not around? So she's got a bad heart.
Mm-hmm.
She's 14 and she needs mental health. So
Yeah.
where do we go to?
Send me an email after this, and then I will work with Vicki and see what I can find out for you.
Okay.
I don't know because there's a lot of layers there.
Yes, there is a lot.
But I'll see what I can find.
I mean, we don't want to go, but, okay.
Yes.
I have not kept up with the position or advancement of the proposed constitutional amendment for electing or not electing
The judges.
the judges. Could you explain that whole process? Is the language developed already?
It is. So we passed this last year. So that was part of the resolution that passed, is that paragraph of what it said. I can look on the bill and I could send that out. But it will be on the August primary, and it would be changing how our judges are selected. Currently, it is a merit-based process. So you apply, you send in your resumes, and there is a panel of 9 individuals from across the state. 5 are attorneys, 4 are non-attorneys, and it's a good selection, but they go through and it's based on merit. I mean, they have been releasing all of this information so you can look at the interviews. It was funny, I was talking to someone who has actually served on that selection committee, and they're like, the only people who are watching these live videos are the ones who are also applying for this position. But it is open. They do after the fact show who has been presented. So they send 3 names to the governor, then the governor picks out of those 3 names. Then they are the judge. Then the next general election, they would be at a retention vote. So all of Kansans would vote to retain those judges. So a lot of times they're saying the public doesn't have any process or any vote in this process, which is not true because of that retention vote. And then I forget how many years, if it's 4 after that initial, it may be 6, I can't remember. But so it is currently based on merit. The way that if we change the Constitution, it would be a free for all. We could have partisan elections. They could campaign, they can collect money. That's the other thing. Like currently, our judges are not allowed to participate. They can't donate to campaigns. They can't take money. And so they're kind of siloed off. Well, if we change the Constitution, that changes. And I think the worst thing that we would have is judges who are trying to take donations, because honestly, one of the biggest people who would donate are attorneys in this. And so then if you're sitting before a judge and then they're looking, I would hate to say that there is like that impartiality, but our judges right now are very impartial. And we have had our Supreme Court currently that has ruled against Governor Kelly on some things, ruled against Brownback on some things. I personally think they got our redistricting, our maps. Like, I will go to my grave thinking they got it wrong, but they looked at it and they said this is constitutional. So I'm not an attorney. I don't know, but I think they were wrong. But they're not picking one side or the other. They're really there to uphold the Constitution. So there is a huge group who are trying to raise money to make sure that there is educated on what that amendment actually does. I think you're starting to see some things. I did a postcard for those in my district that went out kind of the end of the year last year, a postcard just talking about the process and educating. And so I will see.
Just seems so important to be early on, because the last minute, I get to elect. Oh, that sounds good.
And that's what I think you talk about.
I agree with you.
Again, like if you're talking to your friends and your neighbors, like the Kansans, we do have a voice because of that retention vote. But we do not want all of the outside money, dark money. I talk about it when we were even debating kind of that bill last year. When I had people in my office, I was like, I know you love all of those postcards you get at election time, and I know you love the text and all of this, but would you like to get even more of that? Because, like, we looked at what Wisconsin happened, and Kansas would actually be even different because a lot of those, there's nonpartisan. I mean, they're partisan, but they're nonpartisan, and Kansas would be actually partisan. So,
And just remember that primary elections are important, and this is one reason why.
I wish we could figure out a way to tie this primary to the last big turnout of primary and how the amendment could personally change the lives like the issue last time.
and that's what I mean, as we're talking and as those groups that are trying to educate, I mean, this is not about giving Kansans a voice to vote on the Supreme Court. They're trying to stack a court so that school funding, which has been upheld, all of the cases that have gone before the Supreme Court, they have said that we have to fully fund our public schools and a women's right to choose. It's really those two issues that are at the core of why they're trying to do this, because the people who are trying to not fund the schools or take away a woman's right, the courts have stopped them, and so they want to change the courts.
That's wrong.
So, voting, they talk about licenses, the voting places, and I mean, we've been doing that for years.
Right.
But I think that's fine. Yeah, but I also heard from some Trump supporters, friends of mine, that they are saying that the women have to, regardless, when they go to vote, they have to have the same last name as was on that birth certificate. So otherwise, I was thinking, well, the women get married. I tell them, women get married or get divorced and they get remarried again. I said, so that name changes. I said, so you're saying that you're going to take the women won't be able to vote?
You just have to re-register. Just to change your registration, update your registration.
Yeah, you'd have to.
The people who are pushing this thing that he's talking about are saying everything has to be based on the birth certificate.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
the only form of identification.
Exactly. So they're trying to take
citizenship.
that away from them.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, women fought a lot in the 60s.
Yeah, I have heard that where it has to be on your birth certificate, or you would have to bring. That has not happened. There are crazy bills in the House side in Kansas on election, and I think there is probably some of that in there. I don't know what's going to come through, but again, you just have to show your driver's license. And again, it is a felony if you vote and you are not a citizen. So we have these things in place that when everyone is saying all of this, I mean, our Secretary of State says we have fair and safe elections, and Scott Schwab is very conservative and he is doing a good job. But when he is saying we have fair and safe elections, I think we need to listen to that.
I've been an election worker.
That's what there's several in here, I think, that are all election workers.
No, I wouldn't be smart enough ever to figure out how to rig anything.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. They're closed circuits, like they're not connected to anywhere else. Like it is very safe.
So is they going to do anything with the mail ballots?
So they have. So the 3-day grace period has been removed. It's being challenged. I think it's still being challenged, but maybe not. But and there has been a bill on the House side to do away with mail ballots. But again, I don't know what's going to come through. We're watching, and there will be some of that. And I feel pretty confident that our governor would veto some of those things. And again, like mail ballots, these are, I mean, even the 3-day grace period, like that was an issue. and our rural legislators who their mail, they don't have someone who in state who's processing their mail. Like it's going to Colorado, it's going to Texas. So they know what how long it takes to get their mail. So they have actually opposed a lot of these things as well.
I was talking to a male person that came and wasn't my regular one, but just a different one. And he's telling me that they're telling them at the post office, don't worry about the mail, deliver Amazon.
Hmm.
And so they go, well, so once we get Amazon done, then till we go back out and do our routes to do the mail. Once you're on the route, you'd stay on that route and just mostly concentrate with Amazon. And so the mail is not getting delivered. And
Goodness.
I mean, there's
Maybe
been
we
a few
should
days when
do
I've walked
Amazon.
up and at this time, I've been here, I usually get mail every day, but there's been some times when
There
I
is.
don't get mail. I don't think.
Now, if you don't sign up, I get an email every
Yes.
morning of what my mail is. And so I know I've lost some mail because of that. But then I'm able to tell people, hey, I didn't get your mail
Yeah. I
They're
get-
prioritizing packages
over.
envelopes.
Envelopes.
Right.
Is that my husband
Right.
just deals in sports cards and there's, they see that.
Interesting.
but-
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, my favorite story. This is so I love to watch like things that make me feel good about society. And this is this restaurant in Maine. Now I can't think of what it is, but they had reservations and they really could not take all of the phone. Like they just didn't have capacity. So they have this drawing. So you have to send them a postcard to the restaurant if you want to get a reservation. And then they draw, it's like a lottery. And then they will call you and say that you've made this, like you're on this list, which I have legislator friends in Maine and they said it's amazing. I think it's the Lost Kitchen is the name of this place. But they saved their post office because of this little restaurant. So it's my random little fact.
That's adorable.
What else? I'm also going to yell at my house members for not showing up, except for Joella.
I was gonna say, I thought, well, does she have it? Oh, that's right, I did get an email. Yeah, you're
did.
doing it. I mean, they could be just so crazy, they're falling into bed because they're home on Sunday afternoon, they don't have to go back yet for a little while.
They could be. They didn't have a root canal on Friday.
You've got a trump card.
That's right.
A what card?
I've got a golden ticket.
Yeah.
Golden ticket.
Golden
Thanks.
ticket.
Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well, it's kind of crazy, but you know, there is this proposal to make voting a national thing instead of a state thing. Do you see any pushback in the Kansas legislature against it? Because it would be taking the state's authority and it would be, you know, but he's done so many things that.
I know. I mean, it's against the Constitution. I think if you look at some of the debates we've had on elections and like even taking money from the feds to help in Kansas elections, like they have always said, no, we don't want this because we don't want the feds taking. So I think we have a lot of history of people saying we don't want the feds involved in our elections, that we can use that. I'm not saying that they're not going to try to change their mind, but I do think we have some reasons of saying, hey, historically, you've said you don't want this because of this, so what changed? So I don't think that will be the case. Maybe Pat Proctor, who is running for a Secretary of State, like he might think that, but there's also a great Democratic candidate, Jennifer Day, who is running for Secretary of State.
So Kovac has been, did he pay the sanction money or?
It was $1.
$1.
Yes.
Did he pay it?
I don't know. I don't pay attention to.
I thought he was fined 20,000.
This last one, he was sanctioned, I think, $1.
I read about, there was an article about the medical marijuana. Is that just a plan or is that?
So, and I don't know if many of us, so those go through Fed and State, and the chair of Fed and State is Mike Thompson, Senator Mike Thompson. He is adamantly opposed to this. There's also a bill with CBD that is a very narrow tailored, and he doesn't even want to work that bill. And this one is actually trying to show, like, make more transparency so that if you went to, what is it, shaman, like those, that you would know, like, where everything came from. I don't know. It's trying to, who's the producer and how much. They have a bill trying to, with labeling, and he won't even have a hearing on that. Or I think he hasn't agreed to a hearing, but he doesn't want to work it because he thinks it would be amendable to medical marijuana. The House is much more open than the Senate, but I think they are at this position where they've said, we've passed this multiple times and it gets stuck in the Senate, so the Senate has to send us something. That's kind of where I think everything is currently.
The House even worked a psilocybin, like magic mushroom.
They did.
changing the controlled status on that last year, and it died in the Senate.
Yeah. So, I mean, reach out. The chair is Mike Thompson and the vice chair is Senator Tory Blue. Because I've had, like, even with the CBD issue, like, I was like, this is hurting, like, some small businesses. And I was telling someone, like, Tory Blue, like, talk to her about, protecting small businesses, trying to get a hearing in there. But those are the two. And, I mean, reach out to the entire Fed and State Committee. But he is just adamantly opposed to having that conversation. And even when Donald Trump, whatever he did, like a month ago, a couple weeks ago, like, he came out on social media against the president. Like, that's how strong he is. Even though he's a huge Trump supporter, he disagreed with him on medical marijuana. So.
So are you thinking you get to escape early?
Well, we've got 9 minutes, so I will stay. It's all good.
Got a small and subdued crowd today.
It is. I know. And I didn't have, I mean, it's, like I said, it's just been a crazy session. And like, everyone is so focused on the budget. And I mean, we've really compressed things, like, by 2 weeks. That's how much faster. But it just seems like so much more, like, I don't know, the pressure that doing the budget like this, and you're working in the House and the Senate at the same time, and we don't have a designated staff that just does the budget. So you've got the revisers as they're trying to do all of these other bills. It's really hard to get things just because of the pressure of doing the budget.
So why is the legislative bodies, why are the legislative bodies not changing this ridiculous?
This procedure. So this was the Senate president and the Speaker of the House, and they said they wanted legislators to understand the budget process better. I don't think anyone understands the budget process any better. Like, I do think we should have started the process, and I think sooner than we did. But a lot of budget hearings, especially on fee-funded agencies, like, those happened before session even started. So it wasn't transparent. There didn't have a lot of input from Kansans. So that was a problem because no one knew because we weren't in session, but they were dealing with these matters and trying to build the budget. And the Senate president and Speaker, like, they wanted to take this away from the governor because they said the legislature needed to understand this process. No one has enjoyed this process, like, no one. And even so in our education committee, like we do the school for the blind, school for the deaf, and then K-12 education. I have 4 different sheets and they're not combined. So you have your agency request, and then you have whatever, if there's other requests that people are coming wanting to add to those budgets. Like the school for the deaf, like they needed to do a project for renovation. And so they would come and talk about that. Or they needed extra money for paying salaries because they are tied to like the school district, the parity and pay. And so they're like a year behind based on this. So they were asking for more funds so that they can be competitive, especially with like SPED teachers and things like that. But then we have the governor's budget. And so as you're trying to look at all of these things, like this is what the agency did, this is what the special budget committee recommended and is the legislative like base budget. And then you have the governors and then this agency and trying to look at those. And even the chair had made a recommendation to fund something, and then I was questioning it because it sounded like she was putting money in for special education funding, which we all hear about. She was not, so I made a substitute motion to add $92 million into SPED, which was the agency request. It was more than the governor's request, but trying to go through like 4 different pages of request and figure out what is the same, what is different. It's complicated. A lot of those budget hearings, like they're having a hearing one day, and then there's a lot of questions that they're trying to get answered that, you know, maybe they weren't able to answer in those hearings, and then they're not able to get the answers, and then they're working the budget the following day. And so it has not been a very transparent or even doing what it should have been done.
What would it take, Senator, to get our elected officials, and I'm talking about the whole body now, to start realizing or even caring about, I understand the complexity, I truly do, but to make it more equitable for them to come together and really inform themselves and change at least a little bit at a time the process that they're putting you through.
So I think there's lots of layers to that. I think part of it is you have chairs and vice chairs who, if they don't toe the line, they're going to lose that chairmanship or vice chairmanship. I mean, you saw it when the speaker took away all of those that he could for people who did not sign on to a special session. And so that is, I think, because they're like, okay, I can run this committee, I can do things, and I can do some good if I stay in this position. So instead of pushing back against some of those things or standing up, they just continue to fall in line. And I've tried to have conversations because even last session, I had senators who I don't agree with on policy, but they were like, this was a terrible session. And like, they didn't like how things were done, how it was pushed through without hearings. And I was like, well, you're kind of complicit because you could have stopped this. You know, I was vocal about it, but I'm in the minority, but you're in the majority party and you could be a part of the solution. But because they're so afraid of losing those leadership positions, they will toe the line.
So does that mean, I mean, some of the Republicans have got to be a little concerned about what's going on everywhere. Does that mean they're willing to break with their party, or they're going to stick with their party because that's where their chairmanship is, or that's where?
So I think there's a little bit, I think depending on the issue, you're going to see some who break with that. And I would say the 360, the PBM reform, like that is a position where there are people who are going against their leadership because they have done this. So I think that's a huge thing that they're doing it again. When I was talking about the immigration bill and in-state tuition for Kansas kids, that was also when it was a voice vote at first, and I actually think it passed. And then the chair called for division because she didn't want to say the amendment passed. And then you had people who probably wanted to support that, but then they were a little afraid to stand up. So it was 18-19. But again, I think those are pieces. So maybe not on all the things, but you find those little things that they know it's really going to hurt their communities, or that this is something that will benefit their communities, and you see them on those. But it's going to be on a very, minority, or just a different piece, like not consistently. That's so. And I mean, you also saw it when they were dealing with the license plate, or not the license, the driver's license bill, and that you can't change the gender from your birth certificate. And really the House Democrats and all of the amendments trying to show that this wasn't about, that. And it was really about targeting someone who was actually in the Capitol, making sure that they could not use the bathroom that they felt comfortable using. But then they got penalized for that. And so you saw a bill, instead of being referred to a committee to go through the hearing process and making sure that Kansans are able to participate in the process, it went straight to the floor. And it was different. So if something goes straight to the floor, then it's an individual can only talk on it twice. They can call the question at any time and cease debate. So you're seeing tactics like that, and it's in order to penalize people for doing some of those other things, trying to be more transparent and more letting the process work.
Well, I know you all went around the state of Kansas earlier, I guess it was last year. Are Kansans getting a little fed up with some of this stuff?
I think they are. Again, they want to see viable options. And I mean, I think that's, as a candidate who's running for a statewide office, making sure that we're out there talking. I did a radio show for Southeast Kansas. And I actually think they put me on there because they thought I was going to sound like some crazy Democrat with some weird ideas. But that was not, I talked about affordability. I talked about the things. They're like, what's your magic wand if you could pass any bill? And these are things that Kansans care about. And so no, it did not work. And I think they were a little disappointed, but I'm there to really work together with both parties to find ways to make Kansans' lives more affordable and easier, and reduce some of the bureaucracy. And I truly believe that's what most people are there for. But they get afraid of either a primary challenger or losing leadership. And so I think that, again, when you see people, whether it's someone you agree with now or all the time or on occasion, to say thank you to them, so that, I've had members who voted with us on amendments. I'm like, thank you. Or I had, when I was voting when I had the amendment to add the SPED funding, it was a 5-5 vote in committee, and then the chair voted against it to break it. But yeah, I was very thankful for the 3 Republicans who voted with me on that, and I told them that.
So are they gonna do anything about personal property tax?
The Senate is still basically the same version that we had last year. The House does not like that, so there's conversations trying to find a path forward. I also had a text survey, and I don't know who the group that did it was, but it was looking at a constitutional amendment on property taxes, and it was very different. Like they were taking away, the pay for was through different sales tax exemptions, like reducing those. It had a piece on cars. I don't know who was doing this, but I don't know.
Well, I just got I'm in a group text chat with the department from Kansas, and they had talked about this new, I guess it's July 1st of this year, if you're 100% disabled veteran, that you won't pay you don't have to pay tax from up to, I think it's 24,999.
I think there was a bill. I don't think we passed it,
Oh,
but
yeah.
maybe. There was a veterans property tax bill, but I don't think the Senate tax chair pushed it out. I will look, but I don't think, like, I know it didn't get out in the one bill that was
This is
passed.
last
I'll look.
Sunday when everybody was coming back. I didn't make it to break. I didn't go out to Dodge City, but they came back from there, and on the way back they mentioned.
I mean, we did, like, we increased the exemption on your 20 mils, which there could be tied to that. And then the state portion of property tax, we completely eliminated that last year. So most of your property taxes for your locals. And then again, like as you're looking at changes, I think Lenexa is a huge, like we see a lot of growth out here. And so some of these would not allow them to take account for all the growth. And so then you're going to need more fire, you're going to need more police, you've got more roads to maintain. So how do they offset that if they can't even take any of the new revenues from all of the new buildings and things? So then that's where, like, as we're saying, we don't want to just shift something, which is what would happen. So there's one, so if your property tax, because your house is capped and they still need to bring in the same amount of money. So what happens then is your mill rate gets increased, and then your car is going to be more. So it's offset in these ways, which is why I have always said, I'm all for property tax relief, but we have to do it in a manner that is not just shifting it to something else. Like there is a path, but we have to talk and be in partnership with our local governments.
They'll dump on them.
Because if you tie their hands, then what's going to happen is that mill level is going to be increased because, I think we all want, if I'm in an emergency and I have to call 911, I don't want to wait 30 minutes for someone to come and respond. And that's what those local tax dollars pay for.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
The whole time.
The whole time.
No, I'm glad to be here. Thank you all for showing up. And yes, if you want to attend on the 26th, reach out. I think you all probably should get my emails for that, but
I think I kinda got it.
would love to have you join me.